Democrats are trying to figure out, oh, how do we get to the, men? How do we movements, people have fucking paved the way for you. We have laid the breadcrumb trails away from the witch's house. The wolves at the door. Forget the door. They're in the house. And you're still trying to do status quo politics. What are we doing?
Welcome back to In the Meanwhile, the podcast where the vibes are questionable, the news is unbearable, and somehow we still manage to laugh, mostly so we don't crawl back into bed at 9 a.m. I'm Nora
And
Kenworthy.
I'm Marcus Harrison Green. You know, Nora, could you explain to me why every time I check the headlines, I feel like I accidentally stumbled into a group chat run by white nationalists, gun nuts, and incels who think enthusiastic consent means not getting maced on sight?
Ugh, it is exactly the world we live in, Marcus. We cannot unsubscribe from this dumpster fire of American late-stage capitalism. But we can bring on guests who can help us make sense of it, help us rage and laugh to keep us from throwing our phones into traffic.
We so need more of that. Like, with all the misinformation flying around, I was just ready to embrace pure fantasy. Like, for once, could my algorithm send me a headline about free student debt cancellation or universal health care? I mean, my God.
Seriously, I would happily absorb that misinformation. But that'll happen the day that Jeff Bezos gives his warehouse workers health insurance that isn't just a first aid kit, or when Elon Musk stops naming his kids after Wi-Fi
Ah,
passwords.
that'll be the 12th of never, as we know. My God, I will continue to dream, though. I will continue to dream, my friend.
That is why I think today's guest is so important and such a personal favorite. I have to say, I'm personally fangirling out a little bit this
Same,
week
same.
because we have with us Francesca Fiorentini.
Yes, you might know her from the Bitchuation Room, AJ Plus, or that viral clip where she made Abolish ICE sound less like a pipe dream and more like a dinner table dare. She's a comedian and journalist who proves you can go for the jugular and still land a punchline.
One of the reasons we wanted to talk to Francesca is that she's fearless about saying what so-called progressive outlets won't, whether it's free Palestine or defund the police or just the audacity of pointing out that billionaires aren't actually smarter than the rest of us. They're just better at hoarding
Ah,
wealth.
God, the audacity, the audacity. Well, she, as most people know who are familiar with her work, is very sharp, funny, and refuses to water down her politics. So some cable news exec can sleep at night. And honestly, we need that. We need more of that. Because if we can't
Mhm.
laugh at fascism while also plotting its downfall, then I think the bastards may have already won, Nora.
Mhm. So grab a snack, grab a friend, maybe your favorite emotional support animal, and let's chat it up. Here's Francesca Fiorentini.
So, Francesca, you said news comedy is what we need if we're going to survive this wave of fascism that we are undergoing right now. Like, why do you think comedy can do what traditional political media just can't right now?
I wish it weren't the case that comedy can do things that traditional news media cannot, because it says a lot about traditional news media that often we look to comedians to like cut through the noise or ask a hard question, or in the case of the fascists and the authoritarians, we look to comedians to launder our BS, because you see whether it's, Trump going on the, these, what is it, the Andrew Schultz All In podcast, wherever it's called, to Benjamin Netanyahu going on the Nelk Boys. I mean, these are very softball interviews. And so it's funny because comedians are I think we're in a moment where comedians are being just completely useful idiots. And sadly, because of how different the second Trump administration is in terms of, where traditional news media is, both in terms of the backing and the commitment to actual news and the integrity. You've got, the CBS settlements and the Paramount merger, and I know we're going to talk about Colbert, but
Right.
um, it is almost on. I think a lot of people naturally look to comics and just like mockery to both lighten the load of everything that we deal with every single day, but also to get some amount of accountability. I mean, people really, when you have a Bill Burr or a Jon Stewart or someone who can like break through the BS, they're often like a breath of fresh air. They feel like, jumping into a cold lake because we've been so deprived of real accountability as a lot of media outlets bend the knee. So that's why I think that's why I think comedy can do something that sadly news outlets have abdicated for a long time, because of the way, again, capitalism has created just nothing but the private equity mergers and all kinds of layoffs. And I don't think comedians should be looked to, but also I'm someone who like thinks we have to mock all of these fools. Like,
Right.
last on this, Donald
Mhm.
Trump Donald Trump ran in 2015 when he announced, and Huffington Post, I think, put him in the entertainment section or like the comedy section.
Right.
And I remember there was a critique of like, we didn't take him seriously enough. And to me, I feel like we actually did the opposite. I think news media gassed
Mm.
him.
Mm,
They normalized his insanity. They normalized things like, remember the wall, how quaint it all
Mhm.
seems that long ago. And the right move actually was to treat him like a joke. That is how we need to be treating some of these idiots who are running our country. And so it's twofold. It's soothing all of our pain, the very real pain people are going through, but also really kind of, this is the emperor has no clothes moment. And we all have to kind of be, especially comedians have to be that, the boy pointing at the gross balls that are hanging out.
right, like, I've to your point, that's a
So
nice
the gross
visual.
balls point.
That is all kind of vividness right there. I got
Yeah,
so,
you're welcome.
can't scrub that from my brain. But the yeah, I mean, like, to your point, like, I remember the CBS president at the time, even before they sort of bent the knee most recently to Trump, this was back in 2015. He was saying that Trump might be bad for the nation, right, but they're good for the bottom line in terms of
Yep.
the money and the advertising revenue that was coming in. I do want to ask you, and this is seriously present company accepted, but when I was growing up, I mean, we're around the same age in our the north side of 40. But the brown doesn't frown and black doesn't crack, so we looking all right.
But if you Google me for a while, I was coming up as like a 55-year-old Italian opera singer,
Yeah.
which is very funny. And I was like, "No."
I thought you just had a great, like, skincare regime or something. It was but no, it's a
Yes, but no, no, I'm almost 40. I'm 42. I'm gonna be 42 in September.
so, but I'll say it seemed like comedians used to be, and again, present company accepted, they were, like, the most they were the smartest amongst us, the wittiest. It seemed like they had, very high IQs, and I'm sorry to sound like the coastal elite that I am, but, I was listening to Theo Von the other day. He's talking to Ro Khanna, and he's like, "What does the word convene mean?" Like, I don't know, he's asking him to stop to explain the word convene. And I'm like, so these people have millions of followers, and I mean, like, what is the shouldn't there be some more responsibility that comes with that? I don't know, whether you are a comedian
Yeah.
or not.
I mean, we have a dumb guy for president because we I mean, the right has sowed this culture of anti-intellectualism that, like, I do really think that, the Pete Buttigieg is and the Kamala Harris is when she's, getting like poetic, and even the Hakeem Jeffries who speaks in haikus half the time. I just feel like whether it's in politics or in culture, there is something about being very direct and kind of like dumbing it down. In fact, that's actually as a journey for me being trying to hone my craft as a stand up is about trying not to get a few paces ahead of the audience, because then you're going to lose the laughs. It's not just
Mm.
about, people. Of course, people are my shows who don't always politically agree with me, or don't even follow the news, or don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And so trying to write in a way that is inclusive and brings people along and is accessible is something I've always tried to do throughout Newsbroke, which was my news comedy explainers that I still now do for the Bitchuation Room. Is like, how can this be niche in a way that it feels like I'm someone's learning something new, or that there's something revealed, but accessible in a way that is like, I'm still making a dumb, you know, like wine mom joke, or like whatever it might be, something relatable. I think that is like the brilliance of good stand up. That's a brilliance of good writing, and especially writing that has like a purpose. And you see that a lot with like John Oliver can do it well. And it's funny because whereas in the first Trump administration, I think we had this explosion of news comedy, especially desk monologue shows. It was just like everyone was dunking on the orange man this, orange man that. And it's like, I do also think it didn't do shit. Like, there is a limit to how much
Mm-hmm.
comedy can do. And so for me, I've always wanted to, um, I think some of the hardest hitting stuff are the people who are actually in the streets talking to folks, which is a risk. I mean, it's a physical, personal risk when you go out and talk to MAGA,
Mm-hmm.
when they're all amped up and, whatever they're on. And but people like Walter Masterson, I think, are brilliant. I think the Good Liars are brilliant. I think it's important to name these are all like white men who sort of like go in and out of these
Mm-hmm.
spaces easily. But there was something that was very toothless to the news comedy that was happening back in the first Trump years, because it was all very safe. No one was actually really in the streets. No one was actually doing stand up or like mocking. Sam B would have some segments, but going to like, a Ted Cruz, um, a book release, or like, who are the powerful people like now? Like, what would that look like? It's like, who are the people behind this insane Gaza humanitarian foundation plan to so-called feed people of Gaza, but in fact they're being killed and slaughtered? Well, they're based in Boston. So let's go and talk to them. Like, that to me, that's like
Mm-hmm.
the bird dogging. That's the kind of like yellow journalism that like the special sauce in the show I have pitched before but never have gotten to make, is that like basically jackass for journalists, or like journalism jackass. Like, how are we going hard in the paint? Maybe, you've seen Klepper, Jordan Klepper does this too, going hard in the paint, but also holding people accountable. It's like, you don't just get to the ledge of like, oh, we're going to make a stupid joke. No, no, no. Make a good joke. Make a searing joke about the powerful, or about the idiots who, like, are walking around marching in khakis and saying, Jews will not replace us, or whatever the hell they're doing. Like, that's like that to me. I mean, it's dangerous. It's dangerous
Mm-hmm.
comedy, but that's sort of where I wish we would have gone in this time.
Yes. I really want you to be able to make that show.
I know, I know, I know.
Oh,
We called it
uh,
Social Justice Warriors. That was the
oh
name. And
God, that's
because
so
back
good.
in the day, like, not the day, but we pitched it in 2016, and it was wild because you're in these rooms. We had the meetings before Trump got elected, meetings on the book. Get in the room, and these executives in Hollywood are like, it sounds mean. That sounds like, it just seems like a little mean-spirited. Because remember, back in 2016, as soon as Trump won, all media outlets, all executives were like, what have we been missing? How do we
Yeah.
reach the racists? Like, maybe we need to hold hands. We're in our bubbles. Remember the bubble talk? Oh, we're in our
Mm-hmm.
bubbles. Bullshit. That was the time to double down, to do a show that was kind of in your face, and like, so anyway, yeah, it was just interesting to see the inside of the way that even sort of the gatekeepers to things like a news comedy show that really has some teeth, ultimately are scared to shit of, they're just like, let's just make another reality show, let's just make another Love Island.
Well, I want to push this a little bit further. into the kind of the sort of media environment that you find yourself in right now? I mean, we have media institutions, very large media institutions, not just collapsing, but capitulating basically, to an extraordinary degree right now. And so I guess I'm like, if you could dream up a sustainable, radical left media ecosystem, what would that actually look like? And who's doing it, and how can it be supported and and fostered?
I don't know. So many have tried and failed to do exactly that. I mean, every few months I hear of like, "Whoa, this is gonna be like a," I mean, Air America had their moment, and arguably that was like fairly successful, though it got pulled way too soon, during, in the early 2000s. But
Mhm.
I always hear about people are like, "Oh, this is gonna be like, a liberal, or like a left, 24-hour news network, or this is gonna be the liberal blank, or this is gonna be," and the reality is, especially now, that's not where the people are, right? The people are on these massive, you know, news. I mean, the people are on these massive platforms, corporate platforms like Meta and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and they're getting pennies on their content. And so to me, it's very it would be very difficult to start something that could actually be sustainable without almost making it a campaign of boycott, like of being against these platforms specifically because they spy on us, specifically because they steal our content, specifically because they don't pay us fairly. Like, you'd have to really make a conscious break and almost like utilize a moment. I mean, you could imagine like BLM or Palestine say like these are the outlets. And it's hard because the reason people know about genocide is because of TikTok or Instagram. So it's like, how do we balance this? These very, I think, very evil platforms that we all use and rely on every day to get our message out. So I think that it's just like, but I do think the time is coming where it's like, okay, can we create both a boycott, but then what do we go to? What do we support? I know Blue Sky has been like an initiative, and Blue Sky is apparently rolling out a video platform, which I can't, I mean, or a Instagram like platform, which I'd be very excited by. But it's things like that. And I think it would require money. But it's like, yeah, man, Disney Plus is $10 a month, like all these things cost money. And pretty soon, who among us does not think that in our lifetimes you're going to be paying $5 a month for Instagram, or we're going to be moving to that fucking model anyway. So I'm just like, but you need, and I don't know, I'm terrible with money. Why are you asking me? But I'm like, you would need a lot of seed money. You need like a starter. And I think it has to be like a cultural break from what we already use. Because if we're already going back to the things that we use and we don't punish them, um, and there is, it's not going to catch on. And I also think you need some money so people can, um, get paid, like they get paid on YouTube, or they don't really get paid on TikTok or Instagram. There's an initiative called Newsphere, that I know is being started by some journalists to do really direct, like on the ground journalism. People who've been let go by their outlets, a lot of international journalists, and it's a whole integrated platform. It's an app, and it's dope. But I'm like, they're like, do you wanna come on board? And it's like, yeah, but I can't give my, like, I rely on these evil people for some money. This is a very long answer that should be cut, but you hear what I'm saying.
I was gonna say, Francesca,
No.
if you wanted to shamelessly plug your own Patreon at this point, this is, this is
Yeah.
this
Anyway,
opportune time.
the point is patreon.com/bitchuation room. $5 a month, $10 a month gets you a shout out. Yeah, no, I think it's really tough, and I think it will require a lot of, banding together between content creators to withhold our materials and move them away, and or like, I mean, shit, we could also do it top down. I mean, waiting for our democratic socialists to break up big tech and to
Mhm.
democratize places like Facebook, places like Instagram, places that should be like property of the people. We could also do it that way. I don't know. I'm open. I'm open.
Hmm. It also strikes me that just like generationally, we're not all in the same place anymore when it comes to media, right? I mean, this doesn't sound like such an obvious thing to say, but as someone who teaches generations younger than me, I know how out of touch I am with like what 20-year-olds are watching or engaging with, but I also see like my parents still sit down and watch the nightly news every night, and our generation is this like weird, uncomfortable in between of like not trusting traditional institutions and not being cool enough to use new media a lot of the time. And I, I wonder if we're ever all going to get back to the same place where we get our information and news from a similar type of media.
And I really want to like put that into a broader context because it's been so many years now, and I feel like th- it is not about the media platform. And I feel that so strongly that it's not about, oh, the fact that Instagram exists or TikTok exists or YouTube exists. It's not about that. It's about what are people getting there that they are not getting from cable, from, your nightly news. Why wouldn't they buy the subscription? Because people get subscriptions all the time. People use stuff all the time. And media has been cracking its, breaking its brain trying to, how do we reach out to Gen Z? Our viewership is dying. It's like, number one, how about putting some young people on your
Yeah.
shows for analysis? But number two, how about speaking about the issues that people care about, whether it is the economy and how much folks are struggling, whether it is ICE in our communities raiding our family members and DACA recipients terrified for their status. What if it is, a socialist? What if it is about housing? Like, get some real shit, get some real voices, get some real people who come correct and are captivating. But they can't do that. And so I'm reminded of this conversation that's happening right now around mayoral, candidate, but the nominee for the Democratic Party in New York is Zohran Mamdani. And a lot of Democrats are like, oh, he just used media really well. No, no, he didn't. He used media fine, but he's also speaking to the needs of people, and as he would say, relentlessly focused on the working class. Like, the message matters. And so
Hmm.
I think that's what's been so revelatory with this moment. It's just like, you're like, "Oh, where are everyone's getting their news from different sources?" Yeah, because you lost their trust time and time and time again, whether it was the Iraq war, whether it was Occupy, whether it was
Hmm.
BLM, whether it was Palestine. You lost their trust. Palestine, I mean, the fact that news outlets will not cover the genocide, honestly, has lost
Hmm.
them, I mean, an entire generation of viewers and
I mean,
audience.
why do you think they've so forcefully sidestepped the conversations that people want to have? In particular, I mean, just the abomination of the coverage of Palestine and Gaza.
I mean, it's the same reason that anyone sidesteps the conversation about Palestine. It's that they're cowards. And it's wild to think that even people who have so much money would be so cowardly still. And I think um, it's a total slight of the younger generations and people speaking about it, thinking that they're irrelevant. And it's the same sort of like, just with voters and viewers, it's the same. It's like, well, we're going to go to the middle because these are the reliable voters. We're going to get the three swing voters versus the millions of young, usually brown and black people in this country who could be mobilized. It's the same thing with viewership. It's like, we're going to get the people who already have their cable subscription or their watch sitting down and watching the news hour. Not We're not going to try to reach them. Um and so, but it's just cowardice, and I do think it is, who they are more afraid of, whether it's, I mean, just politically going against Israel, saying something critical, going against APAC is like the third rail. You never do it, you never touch it. And standing with Israel has been collapsed into standing with all Jews, and we know that's not true. And so the ostensible, progressive woke thing to do is to always support Israel's right to exist in quotations and say a bunch of empty phrases, no matter, turn a blind eye to all the fascism that you supported in this country as white nationalists chanted, Jews will not replace us, as the Tree of Life synagogue massacre happened, inspired by Donald Trump. No, no, no. We can't really talk about the real threat to Jews. We have to talk about, our blind support for this militarized and, you know, uh, nation that is modeled on apartheid and ethnic superiority, to say nothing of the ethnic cleansing and the genocide in Gaza. So it's just like, it's just easier, right? And so that's the other thing. It's like I'm someone who talks about politics, but I'm also in the media space, and there's just this like psychic break between people who will speak honestly about what is happening and people who won't, which is why you have the right wingers, the Marjorie Greens or the Theo Vaughns, the kind of like outlier random dumbasses who are not inculcated in the lobby to the point where they're not been like trained to say the thing you're supposed to say, so they're just being honest because they're calling it like they see it, which is uh, very annoying to say
God,
the
yeah.
least.
Yeah. I I don't even know what to say on that, to be honest with you, into this.
Yeah, it's a whole other
I
conversation.
No, it's actually funny though, you bring some of that up, like, my partner is Jewish and, a couple of her friends or friends, some of her family members are Zionists, and they, had been sort of criticizing her for just even going to your show, in Seattle, this weekend, and
Oh
she was
shit,
like
yes, yes, take that fire, take
Yeah,
that fire.
and they're like, "Why aren't you protesting her and her Fran Tifa," or as I believe you call it, and she was like, "I'll be in the front row. I'm part of the Fran Tifa." So it's just good to know that your message is certainly continues to have an impact, and, yeah, don't let the haters hate, I guess is what is what I would say to you,
I
but
mean, what's wild, right, is like, is it like the person who I'm one of the people I'm having on obviously is my husband, who's Jewish, and one of the has been a comedian, very much outspoken against what's happening there. And but that is not enough, right? It's Zionism. It's not about Judaism. Some of the biggest Zionists in this country are Christian. And
Mhm.
if you speak out and you are Jewish, you're irrelevant. It's like you don't exist. It's like, and yet it's the only way we're going to stop what's happening, I think, is if Jewish Americans, who have been leading this for decades, not just since October 7th, but if they get more support, they have those hard conversations, they piss off their relatives who don't want them going to that podcast. And then maybe their relatives, maybe take a listen or they think about it different. And, that's this like hard work that we have to do.
right. Right, as I tell them, just come to your show, make sure it's sold out, and, see for
Yes,
yourself.
everybody makes
So, anyhow, um, outside of getting some of these folks a dictionary, you talk about the need for, folks on the left to just sort of stop paying attention and reacting to many of these, bad actors and podcasters on the right, whether it's, Schultz or Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn, and I know they're
even
different.
Piers Morgan,
Yeah,
I am even that dude.
that yeah, you and I only ever watch him with if you're on there, like, dunking on him or Mehdi Hassan, but other than that, but that being said, like, what what narrative should the left start to have and actually create as opposed to just, something that they have to react to us about and, and respond to us about as opposed to us just, constantly needing to react to them.
I mean, that's what's so painful about the last, 30 years, 20 years, is that the left already has. I mean, as much as the right wants to say they are cultural leaders or that, They're the ones selling out arenas, and they're the ones who've got their ear to the ground, and they're the ones speaking to, lost men. Um, it's bullshit because their street movements look like Nazi rallies, and they're small also. Their street movements look like Charlottesville, and their street movements murder people. And our street movements are massive. What is it? 70% of all Americans participated in a Black Lives Matter demonstration. I mean, there were Black Lives Matter demonstrations where Black people didn't live, like, and it that I think is real culture. The problem is, again, the gatekeepers between the very righteous cries of the majority of Americans and what is acceptable to the powerful, to the politicians, to our media. There's a gulf, a massive gulf. And Joe Biden, I think, in 2020 used the narrative wisely when he um, sat down with Bernie in the campaign. He tried to make these overtures. I'm going to be the most progressive president since FDR. He, was very much making overtures to the Black Lives Matter movement. It was very clear that, we talked about this on Newsbroke, that movement helped Biden win. And what did he do in office? Nothing, right? The movements have been there. The left has set the narrative, right? We've set that narrative around end US funding to Israel. It is out there. I mean, don't make me go to the Luigi stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not even left. It's just like people somehow think it's justified to murder a CEO. How the hell of a healthcare company? How rotten does your country have to be on this life or death issue to get to that point? But that's not where the money is. No one's going to take that up. And so I've been grappling that with that myself. It's like, Democrats are trying to figure out, oh, how do we get to the, men? How do we movements, people have fucking paved the way for you. We have laid the breadcrumb trails away from the witch's house, and you're just like, let's not follow that trail. So I think that's the big thing. That is the massive crisis of legitimacy that the entire liberal establishment is going through right now. I don't think I've been in a I don't think I've lived through a moment with more of a groundswell shift away from centrist liberalism, where people are calling into question. We've got the wolves at the door. Forget the door, they're in the house. And you're still trying to do status quo politics. What are we doing?
I mean, it always cracks me up to think that, like, progressives have, like, Beyonce and Taylor Swift and, like, 70% of Americans protesting for BLM, and, like, the other side has, like, trying to sell being a trad wife, you know?
Yeah.
Like
And they get so
like,
much play. How many times have
I
we been like,
know.
this trad wife influencer? Like, shut up. Shut
No
and
one wants to be a trad wife.
Yeah, and it's so top down too. It's so Peter Thiel right now is investing a bunch of money in specifically influencers that target young girls. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
it's
so amazing.
fucked up.
We're in
Yeah.
a time where, like, you know, half this country can't get safe abortion access, and we're like, "What's wrong with the men?" Motherfucker, what's wrong? What are you talking about? Women are dying right here. Like way to reinforce patriarchy and also reveal that you were never really serious about taking it down, right?
Mhm.
That we're having these apples to oranges conversations. Like, no, no, no. All the window dressing you did around abortion rights, around racial justice, around economic justice, it was exactly that. It was window dressing. Around
Mhm.
healthcare, it was all window dressing. We want some real shit to happen.
I just gotta ask you, like, what keeps you being a real one for real? Like, we were talking about Barry Weiss and the Free Press, and about how she's, I think it's $1 million a month or something that her organization
Jeez,
gets,
okay, I can't.
and I and I'm
I'm
like,
gonna immediately delete that from my brain, knowing that she makes $1 million a month.
so what? in all seriousness, like, what keeps you not from doing that grift and just, you have literally turned down opportunities that would have, for a few dollars more, you would have had these golden handcuffs of like an MSNBC or Young Turks or something. Like what?
I
Maybe
mean,
not
even
the Young Turks, but some other.
no, there's no, yeah, no, that didn't happen there. But, I mean, even, like, working at Al Jazeera, I think it was important. I love Al Jazeera, I think they do excellent work. I just needed to challenge myself into doing something different, and again, I think we talked about this, Marcus, but kind of having this "if you build it, they will come" mentality, and I do think, like, we have, again, this chasm, this um, missed opportunity that so many progressives, leftists, young people want in their media, which is straight talk, funny, um, and accessible. Again, not like too highbrow, and not too up your own ass. And I think there are people who do that well. I mean, again, I just call him out, but Bill Burr is someone who is cut through a lot of that bullshit. And Bill Burr is by no means a, careful, politically correct comedian. I mean, if you've ever seen him, he's kind of lays in on anybody. And you can't really pin him down because he's just being himself. He's being honest. And that's very attractive. But I don't know, for me, I mean, it's because 'cause I'm trying what would I wanna see? How do what do I respond to? And I try to model that, and I don't know. I think I don't fucking I haven't had it I haven't had enough opportunities. It's easy to not sell out when no one's asking you to. Do you know what I mean? So I haven't had enough opportunities to be like, "No, fuck you. Fuck you, Comedy Central. I will do this." But I'll let you know. I'll let you know when that happens.
With if Peter Thiel with his Warbucks starts coming to you, then that's how we'll know if you're really a real one.
I mean, it is scary to me to see the amount of billionaires who are reinvesting in this cultural space, in the comedy space, in the influencer space, in the social media space, and
Mhm.
they have bankrolled, progressive voices, and that's just something I don't think I would ever do unless I was, like, made it into a joke or was 100% honest with it or just, like, spent half the time bashing them, you know?
Mhm.
You know, this is a weird aside, but, like, Hugo Chavez, whatever you think of him, he put a lot of money into media during their 21st century socialist revolution in Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro is a terrible person. Hugo Chavez had some moments. And, part of his, like, push was to fund media that also was critical of him, you know? And so, like, that to me is a shining example of, like, real democracy, you know? And so it's like, um yeah, I'm just thinking about, like, what if you can't be critical of the place that you're getting funding from, then that's probably a bad thing. I mean, even when I was working at Al Jazeera, like the news would cover like the World Cup when they had it in 2022, and they were like, by the way, they were talking about like deaths from workers, and they were like, by the way, Al Jazeera is in part funded by the Qatari government, and like when they like had to say that. I wasn't working there during the World Cup, otherwise I would have been very tempted to do something about that.
Isn't that just a damn shame that you have a dictator, or a quote unquote dictator in Hugo Chavez who was willing to fund media critical of him, and you have a president here who is like threatening to take away like broadcasting licenses of media just because he doesn't like a joke that they say. I mean,
No, I think actually Latin America, and I lived in Argentina for 5 years and studied this a little bit. I think actually there's a lot of, there are a lot of governments that have modeled how you would go about democratizing your media because, for example, in Venezuela, it was like strictly owned by the 1%. So the only public airwave was like, your PBS was used by Chavez to like get his message out. And similarly in Argentina, they would do something really interesting that I thought Biden should have done, which was come on Channel 9, which was their publicly owned channel, and say, hey, look at the new roads we're building up in the Chaco region. Like, look at the sewage system we put in this region. And sort of like heralding, you can imagine Obama or Biden doing something like, look at what the American Rescue Plan funded. In fact, here in Seattle, there was a ferry station, and I was like waiting at it, and there was a plaque, and it was like, hey, this ferry station was redone thanks to the American Rescue Plan. And it was like, oh, but like, so the point being is, we don't do that in this country. That's seen, I don't know what that's seen as, but actually we should, because then we can defend the gains. Like, we should have a PSA that's like, hey, guess what Medicaid is? It helps sick children. It helps the disabled. It helps new moms. Like, what is WIC? Well, it helps children get formula. Like, we should be having that. And so there
Yeah.
actually are some lessons from these socialist countries, and in terms of how to use the media, but then also how to democratize the media. Because in Argentina, man, they fought tooth and nail. They had basically a media breakup. So there were, I forgot the exact, restrictions, but if you were a newspaper, you couldn't also own a television station, or you could only own one newspaper. And you couldn't own all the radio waves. So basically, they forced the sale from these massive media conglomerates, and that, of course, was seen as a huge uh, attack on the 1%. It was an attack on the
Mhm.
media. But what it actually was democratizing it. And so I do think there are models from around the world that, if and when we see the light at the end of this very dark tunnel we are in, we should really lift from and
Mhm.
defend, because it does matter that we break up big tech and big media, because that is the moment that we're fucking in right now, where they're all bending the knee. No one's representing the people. And no, like, what about programming? It's like, well, people like reality shows. No, man, there is legislation where you can say a certain amount of your programming is educational, a certain amount of your programming can be entertainment, a certain amount, like, that is a anyway, that's the vision.
I want to dive deeper on the billionaires, because a lot of this comes back to money, rather than just political power. And I think one of the things I really appreciate about your work is that you're willing to really emphasize the idea that billionaires and hyper powerful people in our society are just fragile idiots and assholes. And I think that's a really powerful notion. And I guess I'm wondering if you could talk us through, like, why that's a cornerstone of your work, and how the rest of us can leverage that, to kind of fight through the moment.
I think, if we're being honest with ourselves, Trump has riz. Okay? He has charisma. He is a charmer. Watch your drink, but he is. And he's captivated so many people around this country, and it's not transferable. It's not transferable to his kids. It's not transferable to his billionaire backers. Have you ever tried to, like, sit through a Peter Thiel interview? It is the most terrifying shit of your life. You're like, I don't know if he's being inhabited by an alien right now, or what's gonna, or like someone's gonna, like, one of his blood boys is gonna escape behind him, but he is always wet. It's very, and he can never get a word out. Like, I've been mumbling, that's fine, but I and I'm just like, they gave you this much money. And you see that with Elon. My God, what an Achilles heel, that the dude cannot speak publicly, that he's cringe, that he's weird.
Mhm.
And I believe in punching up, deeply believe in punching up. I believe, unless it's Greg Abbott, in which you have to punch down. See how I specifically, I am no problem making fun of that motherfucker. He's an evil human being. Um, and so that's, I do think, what we have to do. And I hate it, because every time I'll make fun of Greg Abbott, or I'll make fun of Trump for being a fat piece of shit, people be like, you shouldn't body shame him. And I'm like, this is how we lose, man. Like, no, we should body shame the shit out of the powerful, these evil fascists. Like, that's part of it. And our failure to do so is why I think we're not as attractive. Cause like the human thing is be like, he's a slob, he's disgusting. Look at all that fillet of fish stacked on top of each other. Like that's we can't just, be super sensitive about everything. And because shoe on the other foot, that's all they do, right? A woman is speaking. Go in the kitchen. Ha ha ha. Like that's so, within limits, I do think that we have to mock these automaton saltine cracker personality motherfuckers like JD Vance, who again is just such a creation like of Peter Thiel. Um, and he's so boring. And so I think Trump's all they've got. They've got very few people. You got Tucker Carlson over there. He's a good talker, but I do think that using people on our side, whether it's AOCs or Mamdani, whether it's people who do have, even Bernie, right, has a way about him, the authenticity, the directness, and even some of the yelly stuff.
Mm.
They're authentic. They're authentically evil, and I think we need some of that authenticity to break through the noise. I mean, it's just because they're so disgusting. They deserve to be mocked, and they are not like they're not actually going to. No one is attracted to that shit.
Yeah.
Like no one is attracted to. Hey, what if we redo feudalism?
Mm.
And what if we have a king? Like in their heart of hearts, if it's not Trump, they're not really on board with it. And Trump's gonna be gone. Trump will leave at some point.
Yeah.
And then
So
we can exhume his body. I was just thinking this is the thing I stay up thinking about. I feel like there have been so many dick jokes made about Trump that he's either A, gonna he's gonna show it,
oh my god.
or which I think we should try to make him because it would just be so funny, or B, we're gonna be discussing it. We should, like, make his dick size an issue for eons to the point where we exhume his body when he dies and, like, measure it. Like, I just think that would be so funny. Like, I'm just like, we should, because he's sensitive about it, you know? I
Well,
mean, Stormy Daniels, it was a toadstool with Yeti pubes.
Jesus.
Ugh,
this has been a
sorry.
very visual
Yeah,
heavy
this is where
interview
my
today.
mind goes. I'm just random, random shit.
Well, I know you've been up since 3 in the morning, and so we want to wrap up with a question. We have a segment on our show called 8 Ounces of Joy, where Nora and I usually talk about, what have we managed to squeeze, what joy have we managed to squeeze out of a week, even as hellacious as it might have been. And I know this week has been, yeah, God, it is, when it rains, it hails shit kind of thing in terms of just like,
Yeah,
you looking at the headline, seeing, the emaciated children in Gaza, seeing so many people who don't want to do shit about it.
yep.
Um, and so I want to ask you, what is your 8 ounces of joy in the sense of what have you been able to squeeze even like the most minute amount of happiness out of in this last week?
This is the hardest question you've asked by far. Do you guys get to go too? Do I have to go do you guys get to go,
We
or
we
do
we
I
go
have
at
to
the
go?
end of the show when the guest is
You go at
gone,
the
but
end?
yeah.
That's not fair. Okay, guess first. Um, Jesus Christ, what joy. What 8 ounces of joy. I mean, um, but I mean, obviously just like having a 2.5-year-old is pretty joyful and funny.
Mhm.
And she potty trained, which is very exciting. And now when I pee, she goes, "Good job, mama. Good job." And it's that gives me a lot of joy is hearing her. She also likes to repeat me, so she'll say, as I just said, she'll like, "Jesus Christ." And it's not good. It's not good, people. And then she'll say, "God damn it," and then I'm like, "God damn it," and my only reaction is, "God damn it," because I've said that in front of her so long, but she'll just stare at me and say, "God damn it, god damn it, god damn it," until I react, um, and if I'm like, "I don't want you saying that," she'll just fake cry, and it's fucking hilarious. I just wanna say, "God damn it," and, she's 2.5. This is not like a 4 or 5-year-old. This is like a small creature. "I just wanna say," like the lower lip pout, and I'm like, "I am gonna have to explain this to my religious family that when she's just like, 'God damn it,'" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
I feel like kids cussing is always a source of joy for me.
Yes.
Like,
Kids cussing, and especially when they're, like, little,
the little cute ones, yeah.
and you can't let on that it's, like, funny at all. She also this was fun. Never had said this before. I say, "What does mama and papa do for work?" She goes, "Talk." I was like, "That's so sad and so true. We just talk." And
Well, it only gets better as they get older because my 8-year-old woke up this morning. She looked me in the eye. I had to wake her up for camp. She looked me in the eye, and the first things out of her mouth were, "Mom, how do you stay so happy when your life is so dull?" Not like, "Good morning." I was like, "Are you
yo,
are you for real right
the way
now?"
they can
Like, I'm
read,
so
they
roasted.
read you to shit, man. Like,
I
I
know.
will that is so cruel. Your hand was just like, "Ugh, do not slap." I would be so when your life is so dull, how like, what
And
a
I was like,
mean girl.
what do you want me to do that's not dull?" And she goes, "Well, you could be more famous."
You're like, "I am actually."
I was like, "I have a podcast, okay?"
Yeah, exactly. You
Oh,
could be more famous. Ugh, I
it's
swear to God. I'm not looking forward to that. That is so funny.
It's brutal.
well, not a better note to wrap up this episode on. So, Francesca, thank you so much again for appearing on our podcast. Please get some rest. Everybody get tickets to the show, even if it's sold out.
Yes.
Donate, do whatever you can. Support this woman. She is the Michael Jordan slash LeBron James of news, comedy, whatever. Wherever you get down on the government, it's
Online
her.
news comedy
Yeah.
influencing.
Yes.
Yeah, man, everyone, come out to the Rainier, Arts Center, 8 o'clock Saturday, August 2nd. Still tickets available. It'll be a really good time. Mayoral candidate Katie Wilson will be there, Ijeoma
Yes.
Oluo,
Yeah.
Matt Lieb of the Bad Hasbara podcast. It'll be a good time. We're gonna talk Palestine. We're gonna have some games. It'll be fun. It won't just be news on your Saturday night. I promise. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My God, Nora, like I gotta admit that it was the first time that I've been nervous interviewing somebody
I
on
know.
this podcast. My God, like it's like I was just like super self conscious of like not sounding like an idiot. So,
Same, and yeah, I'm not used to being around funny people like that, being a professor, so I was just trying to keep it cool.
but I think we did okay though
Any
overall.
awkwardness
We
I
got
own, yeah.
yeah, yeah, we got the thumbs up from our producer, so I think we're
Okay.
good.
No, that
That
was
being
so much
said,
fun. I
yes,
it's actually good to laugh this week. It's really nice. So,
I that yeah that I have another 8 ounces of joy, but that was definitely one. I will say that.
totally.
And speaking of, let's get into our 8 ounces of joy.
Let's do
All
it.
right. I have to say now this is going to sound petty probably, but we can find joy in pettiness at times. There's been, I don't know, maybe the last decade or so, just a cottage industry of, sort of these why I left the left folks and, yada yada yada. And
Mhm.
mostly they left because of their bank accounts exploded after they did to hop on some, far right station or, go on,
Mhm.
pretend to be an enlightened centrist who somehow always rationalizes with fascism. And I think there's nobody who quite embodies that like Barry Weiss, who is the
Mm.
founder of quote unquote the free press. It's no, not the actual
Yeah.
free press, but a publication slash newsletter slash Substack called the Free Press. I believe she's also either one of the founders or has something to do with a outfit called the University of Austin, which is attempting to be in
Yes.
opposition
They're the
to.
quote unquote free speech
Yes,
university.
yes. Well, we know what that is
Yes.
code word for mostly. But,
Mhm.
and I have to say, it's people like that, to be honest with you, that I think are almost worse than the Stephen Millers of the world or Stephen Banners of the world, in the sense that these are the folks who are trying to put some pseudo intellectual sheen and, civic libertarian, sheen or mascara, if you will, onto fascism and sort of normalize what
Mhm.
shouldn't be normal. Like, I mean, I just to this day,
And they're doing it for
yes,
clout, right?
and clout and cash and bare
Clout and
money,
cash, yeah.
yes, and it's like, I just I we have a president who literally was like trying to stage an insurrection on January 6th. But to the Barry Weisses of the world, the thing that is really hurting us is that Chat GPT is too woke. It said that,
Yeah.
black folks. So I think the latest controversy is that it said something about like black folks being the most like the divine of God's children or something. Anyway, it's
Oh, I didn't hear
yeah,
that
that's
one.
one of the truest things that's ever said, by the way. But anyway, I so anyhow, I was listening.
I actually didn't know that AI couldn't be not
I
racist.
you learn something new every day. Maybe that's the 8 ounces of joy that I should have went with. But I but I gotta say, listening to one of my other favorite podcasts. I mean, this is obviously my favorite, but my maybe third favorite podcast is If Books Could Kill, and
Mhm.
they have this segment called uh, profiles of pundits, and Barry Weiss is the most recent one, and just the takedown. It was like a chef's kiss of like just that whole sort of movement that is basically just cashing in on fascism at this moment. And I just got to say,
Mhm.
yeah, if after you listen to this podcast, go listen to this one like as many times as you want, but then go and go ahead and listen to that If Books Could Kill, the latest podcast. It was
I
again,
definitely will.
it was a sweet joy. And I look,
It sounds like a little bit of
it
therapy
really
maybe.
is. I
Um,
try to be like Michael Brooks, the late great, leftist commentator, where he's like, be ruthless with systems and kind to people. But damn it, I'm sorry. I just could not live up to that with the podcast of If Books Could Kill. That it was a nice Barry Weiss takedown. So anyhow, that is my 8 ounces today.
nice. We are not beyond petty
Certainly
takedowns
not.
here because fascist times demand it.
Yes.
Um, well, I gotta be honest. The news recently, especially the news out of Gaza, has just been tearing me apart.
Yeah.
And I think we're all walking around in serious states of grief and all the dysregulation and mess that brings into our lives. And I don't know about you, but heart, when my heart feels as heavy, it's often hard to not dismiss all the good stuff, to be just so pessimistic that it's hard to take seriously. But recently I've been just trying to like really pay attention to where the good news
Mm.
is, like where the small wins are and to really take time to dwell in that. It feels a little bit like clinging to a pool floaty while going over Niagara Falls, but I'm trying it
That's
anyways.
that's
But
that's a visual right there, Nora. I gotta
I
say.
know. Like a sparkly, like, unicorn pool floaty. Um, but there were 2 stories that caught my eye this week, and neither got the media attention that they should have, so I'm using my platform
Yeah.
here because these are stories that are victories for communities that have been fighting for decades for justice. So, the first story is Flint, Michigan finally laid its last foot of pipe replacement to address the lead poisoning crisis that happened
Yeah.
there more than a decade ago. This was a horrific injustice that was done to the city, and a lot of people said it's not going to get fixed. It's never going to get fixed. And it's thanks to community organizers on the ground there who have persisted for so long, who have kept this in the forefront, to do a project on this scale of repair is just really cool and really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then the second one is, so Marcus, I spent my formative years working on HIV in Southern Africa. And I worked there at a time when very few people had access to antiretroviral medicines. It felt like I would take friends to the clinic and we would get their CD4 counts and they would just get lower and lower, and there was so little that we could offer them. A couple of months ago, we had news that there was a kind of blockbuster new preventative treatment that had been developed and was on the market. And this is an injectable preventative HIV medicine. It's really the first time that like prevention seems not only within grasp, but like easy and something that we could widely distribute. But most people are saying this is going to be another case of like vaccine apartheid where, the poor folks across the world are not going to have it. And thanks to the pressure of a ton of HIV activists, Gilead, which is the company that produces this new path-breaking vaccine, has agreed to offer it at generic prices to 120 poor countries around the world. And so poor folks around the world, countries that cannot afford this, are going to have what is hopefully going to be really cheap access to this incredible feat of science that most people never thought was possible. So that's my 8 ounces.
Awesome. We're going to try something a little different today. We're going to jointly do the sign off. We still believe in equity and inclusion on this show. So, Nora, if you'll kick it off for us.
Well, congratulations. You have made it through another week of America's longest running reality show, Who Wants to Be a Functioning Democracy? And we're getting canceled very soon.
Yes, we are, unfortunately. That being said, though, as always, a huge shout out to our fearless producer, Jessica Partnow, and to Aham Aluo for providing music for the show. You can find and follow us on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky. If you'd like to support our show, you can subscribe to the podcast on our website, in-the-meanwhile.com. A reminder that new episodes drop every Friday, and until then, my friends, we will see you in the meanwhile.